Part 4. The Darkness. I sit sprawled in the overstuffed easy chair that comprises about half of the furniture in the small area designated as a living room in my apartment. Aside from a threadbare second-hand patchwork rug covering most of the floor, the only piece is a squat table supporting my television, which currently stares hollowly back at me through its black, empty screen. I've been home for like 2 hours. I am unbelievably drunk. I dropped the empty bottle from my hand to join its relatives on the floor. From the look of things, a family reunion. Attendance is high. People get drunk for a lot of reasons. Some people think that they become the life of the party when they're wasted. Others want to fit in with a particular crowd. Some, like me, drink because of the muddying effect alcohol occasionally it dulls the pain of particular traumatic events or memories. The lucky ones, they're actually able to use it to forget. I've never had that option. God, I wish I could forget. I want to forget. For me, alcohol only takes the edge off of the memories. Sometimes. Most of the time, it doesn't even do that. The buzz just sort of gives me something else to focus on. But, like tonight, my thoughts happen to turn to that time. To that place. To that thing. I shudder involuntarily. It was so much blood, so much pain, so many screams. Just so much. I lurch up from the chair and run, staggering to the bathroom, flinging myself at the toilet. I barely make it in time before an inadvisable amount of alcohol forcibly removes itself. Twice. I stay hunched, clinging weakly to the bowl. All hail the porcelain god. Sometime later, satisfied that I had finished retching for the moment, I returned to the living room, stopping at the fridge on the way to grab another beer. I just threw up a bunch of alcohol. I need to keep up the pace. I don't want to start sobering up. I settle back into my chair. As always, despite my efforts, I have a perfect recollection of this evening's events. After my encounter with the unworldly thing disguised as an old man on the train, I frantically searched the car for any sign that it was still in there, or where it might have gone, or how it even got there. I went over the length of the train car for the second time, relaying the sequence of events again and again, trying to convince myself that the whole thing had been some kind of fever dream, that I'm not actually crazy. When the Overbrook stop arrived, I picked up my valet and I exited the train. The Glock still held in my right hand, concealed in my coat pocket. From that point, I think my brain shut down for a little bit. I remember walking home, but it's like looking through a thin film of gauze or being underwater. Everything seems slower, but it takes longer. The fog still crowded around me, but I hardly noticed the lack of vision its sinuous creeping provided. I've walked the path 100 times. My legs were basically on autopilot. I was about a block away from my apartment when a man spoke to me. "Hey man, it's a nice fucking coat." I turned slowly toward the voice, aware but not aware. I could feel my body move like a puppet on strings being pulled by somebody else. I dimly comprehended the two men facing me under the glow of a streetlight. Honestly, barely more than boys. In a different world, I might have taught them history. God knows what circumstances forced them to be outside on a night like this. It doesn't really matter. One stood about 6'2", the other a bit shorter, each dressed in the current urban fashion. Their clothes were loose, baggy. Both had bloodshot, sick-looking eyes. Their builds were entirely too skinny, maybe even emaciated. Whatever small part of my mind still acknowledged my surroundings registered that these two were extremely dangerous. Fucking stupid or something, man? What's that fucking look you're giving me? Yo, Tio, I think our boy here's tripping. Think you might be right, Dre. Look like somebody beat the shit out of this fool already. You tripping? Are you tripping, bitch? An awfully nice fucking coat to be tripping. You best just be giving that over here. The smaller of the two cautiously approached me from the side, wary as if I were like a sleeping dog that might suddenly wake up and decide to snap at his hand. In a way, I suppose I was. I stood still, dully looking ahead. I felt a slight pinch from the marks on my shoulders. The one called Dre gave me a look over. Hey, Tio, I think he's got something in his bag, man. You think he's got some bills in there? Let's see, what you got in the bag, man? See if you got some money on you. Tio started to ruin the valet strap from my shoulder. A moment later, he was sitting on the ground, his hands clapped over his mouth, blood seeping out of his fingers. One of his teeth were laying next to him on the pavement. I stared at him in surprise. Looking down at my hand, my knuckles were bleeding. I think I hit him. The fuck, man? What the fuck? Tio's face was livid. Dre howled with laughter at him. Yo, Tio, that bitch popped you good. Right in your fucking hole. Ha! Tio wiped his lips with the back of his hand and spat, another tooth flying out of his mouth. His face was set in a hard expression. It's gonna be the last thing he does too, man. Tio's speech sounded off, trying to talk around two missing teeth. He pulled a knife out of his pocket and flicked it open. The streetlight caught the small blade. You think you're funny, motherfucker? You think you're just gonna hit me and ain't nothing gonna happen? You're fucking wrong, man. You're dead fucking wrong. His lunge was wild and sloppy, but it would still do serious damage if it connected. Seeing it through slow-motion fog, whatever fog my mind was currently operating in, I had all the time in the world to sidestep, catching his arm holding the knife and tightly gripping his wrist with my right hand. I drew my left back and drove my palm against his elbow, hard, simultaneously jerking his wrist toward me. It was a sickening snap. His arm bent the wrong way against the joint. He screamed, "Oh my fucking god, my arm, my motherfucking arm, he broke my goddamn motherfuck." I let him go. He crumpled to the ground, curling up into a fetal position. He's crying, cradling his broken arm. "Oh god, it hurts, man, it hurts, oh my god." Tio! Dre's expression was one of shock. Apparently this was the first time any one of their victims had resisted. "You crazy motherfucker, you shouldn't have fucked with my homie, man. You just bought yourself a one-way ticket to hell." I bent over and I picked up the knife. I folded it into my coat and I stood straight, hands still in my pockets, my face placidly unaware of the whimpering man at my feet. Dre lifted his sweatshirt and I saw a big .45 caliber handgun stuffed in his pant line. "I'm gonna make you scream, bitch. I'm gonna make you bleed." He reached for the gun. Emotionless, I pulled my Glock out of my pocket and I shot him. It's always surprising to me how loud gunshots really are. You know? In shootouts on television, characters have lengthy conversations punctuated by witty quips while gigantic machine guns are firing, explosions are going off all around them. In real life, a gunshot is harsh. It's incredibly loud. When bullets are flying, the last thing anyone thinks of is banter. In this case, it took a second for me to regain my hearing. Just enough to recognize Dre's inarticulate cries over the ringing in my ears. His pistol lay next to him on the ground where he feebly thrashed, shocked at the gaping hole he had, as if by magic, suddenly, had just appeared in his shoulder. I calmly stepped over and kicked the gun away, sending it skittering across the street. I stood over the wounded man, frowning. Just because things didn't work out for them tonight doesn't mean a thing. The next time they try to mug somebody else, the next time, it could be Billy Parr. A bright flash of rage flared up inside me. It must have shown in my eyes. Dre's cries quieted to a soft, helpless whimper. I pressed the barrel of my Glock to his cheek and roughly gripped his wounded shoulder, painfully hauling him to a stand-up position. I should kill him. It would be easily justified as self-defense. Already tonight what I seen, there's monsters in the world and I'm powerless to do anything about those. I should take care of the ones that I can. His eyes went wild. He began pleading. Please, man, don't kill me. Don't kill me, man. You weren't gonna do nothing. Please, man. I'm sorry. Please, oh God, please don't kill me. He started to cry uncontrollably. The harsh metal of my barrel was still digging into the side of his face. I smelled his bowels as they emptied themselves. Tiir watched silently from where he laid terrified on the ground, his arm bent, broken, unnatural. Fear plastered across his bleeding face. My finger tightened on the trigger. Suddenly, a sharp flare of pain emanated from my shoulder, wiping away the fog that had been clouding my mind all evening. It was like a veil was lifted. For the first time, I observed the situation with perfect clarity. I saw a hurt, frightened boy in my grasp. His hysterical breaths were coming in short gasps. I saw myself, how I must look to them. A wrecked and half-crazed madman with a gun. God, what am I doing? Dre grimaced as I dug my thumb into the bullet wound and leaned close, talking low right into his ear. You and your friend, you go to a hospital. You stay out of my neighborhood. And if I see you again, you'll consider this night a pleasant memory. I let him go as he bonelessly fell to the ground with a pathetic cry of pain. Tiir managed to get enough control of himself to help Dre to his feet. I numbly watched the two of them stumble blindly into the fog, in the general direction of a hospital. Horrified at what I had almost done, I looked down at the gun still gripped in my hand and shuddered. I reholstered the weapon and picked up the single piece of brass on the pavement and put it into my pocket. The rest of my walk home was pretty uneventful. I took my time knowing the frequency of gunshots and gang violence in this neighborhood would not hurry any police response. I couldn't stop shaking. I finally reached my building and I opened the front door with my tenant key, walked down the hallway to my door, moving like some sort of automaton. I unlocked the 3 deadbolts in succession and heaved open my slab of a door, stepped inside and disarmed the security system. I dropped my valet by the door and painfully shrugged out of my pea coat that had attracted so much unwanted attention. Hanging it on the hook by the door, I moved through my living room toward the bathroom, briefly making a side trip to grab the first of what would ultimately be many beers from the kitchen. I finally heard the approaching police sirens in the distance. It wasn't like I had anything to worry about. The fog was thick enough that all of our features were significantly protected from any potential witnesses. I stripped, tossing my gun and its holster onto the nightstand by my bed. I examined my shirt. A dark smear of blood was oozing from the red mark that was going through my shoulder. I checked over my wounds and confirmed my initial assessments. The scalp was ugly, but wouldn't need stitches. The lump above my eye wouldn't win me any beauty pageants, but once the swelling had gone down, it'd be fine. I may even look normal by the time class resumes after Thanksgiving. All of my other scratches and cuts were pretty much superficial, although the itching as they heal would be pretty uncomfortable. The most curious thing was that mark on my shoulder had reverted to looking like it always had. Dead, pink scar tissue. Without the stain on my shirt as testimony, I'd be inclined to believe that I had imagined all of the bleeding earlier. Even though I had just taken a shower before my escape from the school, the ensuing events left me with a decidedly unclean feeling. The frigid roar of the water from the shower was blessed. I stood there for a long time, taking deep pulls out of my drink. Finally, towering off and redressing, About 15 beers later, you find me in my current position. Slouched in my armchair, drunk as hell. I sit staring into space, contemplating the pros and cons of another drink. 3 sharp raps issue themselves at my door, causing me to jump to my feet. Shit. Did that thing follow me? I gotta get the gun. No. Think logically. It wouldn't be knocking. What if someone saw the earlier attack? Friends of Tio and Dre. Definitely gotta get the gun. No. What if it's police canvassing the area? I've never done that before, even with the murder of a couple people months ago. Still, if it's the cops, I shouldn't answer the door armed. What the hell is going on?